in progress. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Yes, I can hear you. Got it. So just to confirm, my video is off, right? So this is just my audio. So can you hear me? Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing, test. Can you hear me? Hello, testing. Are you able to see my screen? Testing one, two, three. Can you hear me? I'm sure I can keep talking. Testing one, two, three. Testing one, two, three. Is my audio volume okay? Is it too soft or too loud? Do let me know. Thank you. Okay, this works. Can you see me on the screen now? Testing one, two, three. Testing one, two, three.
souffrez pour ces travaux proprement dits, d'entendre une voix rocailleuse. Et il s'agit de la seconde partie de cette journée. Cette seconde partie sera marquée par 2 temps forts. Le premier temps sera consacré aux présentations et après la pause déjeuner, nous aurons un temps pratico-pratique puisque nous aurons un atelier. Et bien entendu, nous allons finir cette journée de la plus belle des manières avec un cocktail dînatoire, avec un orchestre. Vous pouvez comprendre par là qu'il s'agira d'un cocktail gargantuesque. Alors, je voudrais, pour le premier temps fort de cette deuxième partie, vous annoncer le programme. Il s'agira des présentations qui se feront tour à tour. Et la première portera sur le guide de l'intelligence artificielle pour les petits États, le cas du Singapour. La deuxième présentation portera sur la stratégie nationale de l'intelligence artificielle pour le Rwanda. La troisième portera sur la stratégie nationale de l'intelligence artificielle, le cas du Ghana. Et bien entendu, nous aurons abordé la question de la stratégie nationale de la cybersécurité pour le Togo. Et avant d'observer la pause déjeuner, nous aurons une approche combinée des données géospatiales et de l'intelligence artificielle pour lutter contre les épidémies du paludisme en Afrique. Alors, sans plus tarder, nous allons suivre les présentations et je tiens à rappeler que ces présentations se feront sous un format hybride. Il s'agira des présentations en ligne et des présentations en présentiel. Donc, les 3 premières présentations seront en ligne et la première porte sur le guide de l'intelligence artificielle pour les petits États, cas du Singapour. Cette présentation sera assurée par Monsieur Benjamin Chua, bien entendu. Et Benjamin Chua, il est senior manager en gouvernance de l'intelligence artificielle Singapour et responsable des politiques à l'Institut de sécurité de l'intelligence artificielle de Singapour. Il conduit l'approche de Singapour pour une intelligence artificielle fiable via les normes et politiques. Alors, je vous prie, puisqu'il s'agira d'une présentation en ligne, et cette présentation sera faite en anglais, pour ceux qui ne sont pas parfaitement bilingues, je vous prie d'utiliser vos casques. Et sans transition, nous allons écouter Benjamin Chua pour sa présentation, sous vos ovations, bien entendu.
Okay, yeah, I guess I'll just begin. First of all, thank you so much, everyone. Very good morning to all of you here. My name is Benjamin. As mentioned, I come from the Infocom Media Development Authority of Singapore. I'm very happy to take some time today to share a bit about, I think, our approach to AI governance in Singapore, as well as the work that we've done with Rwanda in our AI playbook for small states. And happy to take any questions thereafter. I think, first of all, it's important to contextualize what we're doing in Singapore within our broader National AI Strategy 2.0, which we launched in December last year. I know that in your coming presentations, you will also hear national AI strategies from Rwanda and Ghana. So I won't take too long about Singapore's approach. But in general, what we have sought to do is really see how we can harness AI for the public good, right? Uplifting individuals, communities, groups, as well as broader society. So if you see the circle on the left, there are 10 key enablers of our national AI strategy. They range from things such as working with industry and government, tapping on talent as well as capabilities. But if you see the bottom third of the circle, that's really on infrastructure and environment. And if you see that circle there in red is really called trusted environment. And this is, where AI governance falls in here for Singapore. We believe that within AI governance, what we try to do is to build up a trusted ecosystem. And we build up a trusted ecosystem not as an end in itself, but we build up a trusted ecosystem as a means to an end of really harnessing AI for the public good. We have two key approaches to this. It's really in terms of, as I mentioned, building a trusted ecosystem. And we believe that if we do so, AI benefits can be maximized both in terms of society and in terms of the broader economy. How we go about this is really through building guardrails to really protect the public
Recording
interest.
stopped.
And these guardrails are put in place really not to really stop the technology from developing, but it's really to build trust. And through that, we really believe that building that trust actually increases space for innovation. And secondly, we understand that, capabilities that AI has are developing so quickly, but because these capabilities are developing so quickly, the risks also develop very quickly. Hence why we need to adapt by really having a lot of agile and adaptive policies. These policies should be calibrated and proportionate to the risk at hand. And beyond that, we also want to develop practical tools. And you hear me go back to this again and again. We believe that while it's important to develop frameworks, it's also very important to develop practical tools that industry can really use to help themselves in their AI journey. And lastly, we want to partner with different people, industry, academia, and other governments. So how do we address the risk from AI? I'll just very quickly go through this. I won't go into too much detail, but really, we recognize that we do not operate in a vacuum. There's already existing legislation that can be in place that protects against harms, right? How do we assess if this existing legislation can be updated if necessary? Such legislation could include Personal Data Protection Acts, legislation against misinformation, etc. Can we update this to address how to tackle AI through this existing legislation? Secondly, it's important to build practical tools. So beyond frameworks, beyond guidelines, toolkits that can address specific AI risks and harms. Thirdly, we need to invest deeply in research upstream. This is really to ensure that, knowing that the state of the sciences of AI is very new, everything is developing so quickly, we need to ensure that the sciences for AI safety also continue to go strong and grow. And lastly, we want to have inclusive international engagement, how we can see ourselves as contributing to global norms on AI safety and governance. We see here really a 2x2 table shows the different things that we've done, right? If we start by the first row on traditional AI, what we've done is, first of all, we launched a few frameworks. We started off our journey in 2019 by developing what we call the Model AI Governance Framework, and it is really detailed guidelines for organizations to implement trustworthy AI. We had sections in the guide that include the things like stakeholder engagement, operations management, risk assessment. How do you help organizations to think about implementing trustworthy AI? But as I mentioned, guidelines and frameworks are not enough. And because of that, 2 years ago, we launched AI Verify. I have a couple of slides later on which would explain a bit more what AI Verify does. But in essence, it is a practical testing tool that helps industry, helps companies that have AI systems test them to really see, are they safe? So that's the top. That's the first row. But as we all know, generative AI came and really came to the limelight a few years ago. And because of that, we also had to adapt. We also had to pivot quickly to adapt to the new thing called Gen AI. So on a similar vein, we launched our governance framework. This is what we call Model AI Governance Framework for Gen AI. We just launched it at the start of this year. And this is really to see about how can we assess the new risks that emerge from Gen AI and how do we handle it holistically. But similarly, just as we launched a practical testing tool for traditional AI, we did the same for Gen AI. We launched what we call Project Moonshot in May this year. Project Moonshot is really a practical testing tool for Gen AI systems, in particular large language models. And I have a slide on that later as well. But in essence, this is really the summary of the key things that we've done here in Singapore to really tackle both traditional and Gen AI. This slide talks about the 9 different dimensions of our model AI governance framework for Gen AI. There's a lot of words here. I'm not going to go into every single one of them because if we do, we'll be here for a long time. But in just what I wanted to show here is that it takes an ecosystem approach to tackle AI, to understand not just its opportunities or its risks, but how to consider them holistically across the ecosystem, recognizing that no one dimension is a silver bullet. So the different dimensions range from accountability, how do you design incentive structures so that each player in the tech stack behaves responsibly, to things like data. How do you consider personal data, copyrighted data, data quality, to things like instant reporting. If and when something goes wrong in your AI system, how do you ensure that the proper parties are notified, remediation action takes place? Things like content provenance, right? There's a huge risk of misinformation that can come about as a result of AI. How do you think about technical solutions that help to mitigate this problem of misinformation? And we talk about things like AI for the public good. All that we do is really meant to uplift and empower people, businesses, society, people groups. So that's the framework. Briefly talk about AI Verify. AI Verify is a toolkit that we open sourced. We proactively open sourced it. You can download it for free on GitHub. You can tweak it accordingly. You can add modules to it. You can add algos to it. The whole intent is to launch it out there to help industry and so that industry can co-create with us on this. But what is it in the first place? Very simply, we call AI Verify a testing framework and a software toolkit. The testing framework is made of more than 90 process checks based on globally aligned AI ethical principles. Some of these, most of you will be familiar with: transparency, explainability, robustness, fairness, accountability, etc. Right? These are process checks, but we couple these process checks, which what we call technical tests. Right? We drew together the latest state of the sciences in terms of technical algorithmic tests in fairness, explainability, and robustness, and we put it together as well in AI Verify. So you have a process checklist, you have technical tests, you run your AI system on them, you self-test, or a third-party tester can use it, and what happens thereafter is you develop a testing report that comes out of it, right? And this testing report will allow you to really assess and see what went wrong, and maybe even show your customers. The last part of this slide is to really just show that our AI Verify toolkit, we wanted it to be interoperable with the major international frameworks that are out there. So what we sought to do is map and crosswalk our toolkit with a variety of people. The US NIST, for example, in terms of their AI risk management framework, ISO IEC for 2001, which is your AI management systems, and most recently, the G7 Hiroshima Code of Conduct. Project Moonshot, as I mentioned earlier, is the Gen AI equivalent of AI Verify. What it does is it evaluates large language models in 2 ways, right? Benchmarking and automatic red teaming. In benchmarking, it provides a one-stop platform that allows you to scale your testing or benchmarking at scale. It streamlines these processes. Benchmarking can really treat it as really your exam paper that you post your LLM to see if it passes or fails, to see the score that comes out of it. And Moonshot doesn't only allow you to run benchmarks on your LLMs, but Moonshot has already built an existing benchmark repository drawing from different open source players as well as build up your benchmarking repository. We also have automatic red teaming, which is in essence, we understand that human-based red teaming is extremely onerous, extremely labor intensive. So what we tried to do is really to say, if you want to red team your LLM to really see whether it can stand to the test of time, to the test of adversarial prompts, we have built what are called attack modules. And these attack modules are really fine-tuned small language modules. For example, your attack modules can take a criminal persona or a persona of someone that, a bomb maker, right? And these attack modules would generate adversarial prompts to see if your LLM would have the proper guardrails and safeguards in place to not spill out toxic information, dangerous information, biased information. So Project Moonshot is in essence benchmarking as well as automated routine. We house all of this in the AI Verify Foundation. It has more than 160 companies from around the world. We created this foundation because we believe that we do not have a monopoly of knowledge. We have to crowd in expertise from everywhere, from model developers, app deployers, third-party testers, academia, different players to really see how can we co-create, how can we build up, whether it's tools, benchmarks, whether it's providing inputs to our policy frameworks and guidelines, whether it's building up a third-party testing ecosystem, right? And the picture like over there on the right hand is really the first year anniversary of our AI Verify Foundation. We held a meetup in Asia Tech Conference in Singapore in the end of May. We have this conference every year, same time, same place, end of May in Singapore. Happy for all of you to join us if you can in the coming year. Going down to the AI playbook for small states, just to share a bit more about this, we've launched this and we partnered with Rwanda to really launch this at the UN Summit of the Future Action Day just 2 months ago. Right, this playbook, the QR code is on the picture on the left if you want a direct link to the PDF. It is a digital forum of small states, or what we call DFOS initiative. I will share a bit more about what DFOS is a bit later, but what we sought to do is what we call build an anthology of best practices, right? And what this means is we really try to tap on the success stories of different members of the FOSS community. What we didn't want to do was really to tell them, hey, this is your prescriptive manual of how to make AI succeed in your country, full stop, right? Because we believe that everyone, FOSS nations are at varying levels of development, and at different levels of geography. You're located in different places, your resources are different. And because of that, we didn't want to say this is the way of doing it. Instead, what we sought to do was we pull case studies from around the world, right? And we got in our version 1.0, 17 case studies from major geographies, whether it's in Africa, Asia, Europe, Oceania, as well as from international organizations such as the ITU and UNDP. Right, we actively sought to ask different small states, what are some challenges which you faced, right? What do you think you have, what questions do you have in terms of how to build up your AI ecosystem? From there, we'll build up our playbook from the bottom up. Last one here is we really intended for it to be a living document, right? Hence why we call it version 1.0. We believe that, we will constantly and continually iterate on this together with Rwanda to build it up, to see how else can we work together with the FOSS community to build this. This slide talks, it's a dense slide, but this slide really talks about the different chapters of the playbook. There are 4 chapters for version 1.0. First chapter on the top left is really about laying key building blocks. And by building blocks, what we mean is what are the key ingredients or the key enablers that are needed to build up your AI ecosystem. And here, typically, right, these 3 things come up again and again and again: talent, data, and compute. For talent, it's about, how do you nurture both your tech professionals